Hello, everybody, and welcome to Running from Comfort. This is episode 21, and it is also the first episode of season 2. How fitting. For those of you who have been around for a while and are already subscribers, I want to say thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. And for anybody listening for their first time, I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you do, don't forget to subscribe for future episodes as we are at the beginning of season 2. How exciting! And don't forget to drop it a like if you're watching on YouTube and give us some feedback, either in the comments or on whatever platform you're listening on. Subscribe and give feedback, please. All right. So, before we get stuck into today's interview, I just want to take a moment to ask you guys, how are you doing? Like, really, how are you doing? Because right now, the world is going through growing pains. I'm sure, unless you're living under a rock, which all of us technically are at the moment, under quarantine and isolation, then you would know that right now we have the coronavirus pandemic, and there is going to be a lot of things happening in the world and a lot of things changing as a result of this. And, you know, some of this will be for the better and some of it might not be. And, you know, it's really important that we use this time to get to know ourselves and to better ourselves, because the world is changing. We're going through growing pains. And if there's one thing that I know about pain, it's that through pain comes growth. And this is an incredible opportunity for us to begin to work towards living our best lives. And I really do believe that that begins with first getting to know yourself. And more than that, I do believe that that also involves getting to know God. Now, I'm not going to push that on you guys, but I just wanted to point that out there because that's what I believe to be fundamentally true about life. So, use this time wisely is all I'm going to say, because you're going to have plenty of it. But if you are struggling, make sure you reach out to people, okay? It's very important that you don't suffer in silence, okay? We're all going through the same thing here, guys, and we're all going to get through this together. So, in today's interview, Stefan, who has a YouTube channel called Uberboyo, we talk about what is going on in the world, because it is crazy. You know, the governments are just taking away our rights and we're just saying, yes, please do this. Save us from the coronavirus. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I am suggesting is, should we be somewhat concerned at how quickly we do give up our rights? That's not something that we necessarily discussed in the show. You know, we're on limited time. I only had about 30 minutes with Stefan. But that's something that I want you to consider for yourselves. I'm not going to tell you the answer to that, but I just want to get you thinking about that. But anyways, we discuss what's going on in the world, and, you know, I wanted Stefan's perspective on this because on Stefan's channel, Uberboyo, he talks a lot about psychology and philosophy, and he dives heavily into the works of both Nietzsche and Jung, and I can't recommend the content enough. It is rich and it is resourceful, so go check out his channel, Uberboyo. He also does some music on there. I haven't dove too much into the music. I've listened to it, and, you know, it's good, it's interesting, and it's different. But anyways, look, I hope you guys all enjoy today's show because I think this is a very interesting conversation. I just want to leave you with two little notes. The first being, I apologize, I'm talking way too fast. It was late at night and I was overly caffeinated. And secondly, because Stefan was in Ireland, there was a fair bit of lag on our Zoom call. So if you're watching on YouTube, you might see Stefan's screen freeze a few times. And also, I do wind up talking over him a couple of times, and part of that is, well, I'm learning how to be a better host, and the other part of that is when there is lag, you're not ever fully sure when somebody's done talking, so you're not sure when you can just jump in and have your point. So look, doing Zoom calls is a bit different, but we're working with it. But anyways, I hope you guys all enjoy today's show. If you do, don't forget to give us a rating and a review and to subscribe. All right, peace out. All right, awesome. All right, hello, and we're live. And hang on, can you say it for me? Is it, how do you got it? Is it Boyo alert?
Have I got a Boyo alert? Of course, Boyo's become alert. We are here. It has happened. The alerting has come. The great alerting has come. The coronavirus has come to alert us to how much we need the Boyos to be alert. So it is here.
Yes,
it is here.
Yes. Tough times, we'll all persevere, we'll all get through, but definitely need some good boyos around there. But yeah, so today on Running from Comfort, our guest is Stefan Fox. You may also know him from his YouTube channel, Uberboyo. They do some pretty good content on there. You make some music, you make some very interesting music, I'll say that. You do some that wasn't a dig.
No,
But
no,
you
no.
also,
I know what you're referencing as well. So go on. What were you saying?
But also you do a very interesting podcast. You do many different podcasts. You cover a lot of different topics, mostly in the theme of sort of psychology. You cover a lot of Carl Jung's, which I found very interesting. You know, being a Christian and, you know, being minorly conspiratorial my whole life, I find learning from Carl Jung from you boys is very, very interesting. So definitely go check that out. And you also get into Nietzsche's work as well. And I'm going to be honest with you, because I'm a Christian. I don't always listen to your Nietzsche videos. I'm too scared.
Yeah, man. Actually, it's quite surprising with the Nietzsche stuff, because I personally think he's a better thinker than Jung. I think Jung is good, and Jung has quite this like aura around him. Like people really, really like Jung for some reason, and they really like are drawn to him and whatnot. And he's got a fantastic perspective. And I'm reading the Red Book right now properly, because I'm going to try to turn it into a series to storytell what actually Jung went through with the Red Book and whatnot. And it's a very fascinating story, because Jung is wrestling with his mind and coming to terms with the idea that my quote unquote my ego, my personality, like the front I put up into the world, persona, if you will, whatever, like all these terms that he's later in his life, he's giving a very narrative description of why he was coming up against that, and realizing that at the back of his mind there was this sort of this driving force. He calls it his soul. I think he later went on to name it as anima. And it's this idea that, like, I guess you could say we've all got instincts, and our instincts sort of drive us. That's a bit reductionist as well, so I don't want to get into that. But basically, like, we've got all these instincts that drive us, and we've got this like rational mind that actually just deludes us. And Jung is fascinating on that front. And then what I find interesting about Nietzsche is that the difference between Jung and Nietzsche is Jung is just saying that that's a reality. I find he just says, all right, we have this underconscious, subconscious, and driving personality, and then this fake sort of egotistical front. And the thing I noticed about Nietzsche is Nietzsche actually got that. Nietzsche is really big against self-deception. But the difference between the two of them is Nietzsche is actually the one who most of his writings are about calling out that self-deception. So I noticed then when people engage with Nietzsche, he's literally like constantly calling people out and pointing out self-deceptions, and people just can't handle that at all, which is very, very interesting, because as much as Jung will tell you that that's a reality and you should do it, like face the shadow, if you will, or something like that, or go into the deep or whatever, when it comes down to actually doing it in practice, most people are like, wait a second, this is all just fun and games. I don't want to actually have to do this. Like, this is a bit hard on me.
And it's very hard.
It's very, very interesting.
It's very hard calling out your bullshit too. And I guess, like, you talk about somebody like Nietzsche as a writer, like, I recently participated in a course, and one of the big things they tried to get you to, it's called Landmark. And I don't know, some people call it a cult. I'm a bit leeway at it, but it's good work. But it's all about integrity, sort of telling the truth, but really calling out all of your own bullshit. And like, it actually almost annoys me now that I'm back in the real world from it, because I could pick up every little piece of it. Like I say, the rational mind just comes in and tries to feed you lies.
It's crazy. Like, it is fuck, I'm have to turn off my headphones. It is a very, very difficult thing, the nature of your own mind. Like as much this dynamic I'm trying to describe here, that you have this sort of ego mind, rational mind. People think it's all woo-woo or whatever. It's like whatever. This is just some theory. It's not actually how it works in practice. But in practice, I think this is probably the most fundamental reality of humanity, is that we have a propensity towards delusion. Like, we almost always aren't telling ourselves the truth. Now, that's an unbelievably difficult statement to get your head around, but think about it. And they've even done experiments, for example, where they will test all these different, like, you know, bots in the computer simulation, and one bot will be about figuring out reality of the matrix that the is in, and the other one will just be about surviving till the next generation. The one that wins is always the one that survives. The one that's looking for the truth almost never survives. And so we've been through similar evolutionary problem. And so for some reason, we think that we are able to just grasp the truth, and the truth will bring us forward. But it's almost always been the case that survival trumps truth, and moving forward trumps truth. And that's an unbelievably difficult thing for us to understand, because that means that the part of us that thinks we're noble, truthful, moral and all that is actually like fundamentally not in touch with reality. It just seems to be that way, and that's such a hard thing for people to really accept.
I'm trying to grip this myself, because, you know, my standpoint would be that, like, the truth is what would bring you sort of the best in life. It's what's going to get you the most forward in life. If, like, you know, and I would say part of the truth would be like accepting fact. Like, when you're able to accept fact, you're able to sort of walk through hard times. But you're saying that that's against survival.
Like you said Christianity. Like, I think the story of Jesus could be read in a sense of he's saying that if you want to tell the truth, you're probably going to quote unquote lose. Like, you're going to die and not get it. Like, it's not going to work out for you. And it's this sort of question of, do you want to live a lie and win, or do you want to die with your soul intact? And that's an extremely hard question, because it's all well and good to pay lip service to this, but then say you show up in a situation where you have a family and they could starve, and you've been offered a job, but the job involves you, I don't know, like you know, say they tell you, for example, we're in the coronavirus. So say you're in the military or you're in the police and something like that, and then they turn around to you and they say, right, I want you to, oh shit, my internet's unstable. I want you to round up all the people, and I want you to stick them in camps. And you're kind of like, why? And it's like, for quarantine. It's like, I don't think people are that sick. And it's like, just do it and don't ask questions. And then you start to hear really strange stuff about these camps going on. And then you're sitting there and it's like, all right, if I don't do this, my family and me are going to get fucked. If I do this, I'm pretty much, I could be, you know, I'm like the guy who's putting people into a gulag. And so that's a very, very difficult question, because it's open to sort of talk about this stuff. But imagine someone actually going through that. I almost guaranteed that 95% of people would crack and just be like, send them to the camps. It's not my problem. It's no big deal.
Yeah. And I suppose
really fast.
And, like, you know, that is very, very true. Like, fundamentally, that is true. I suppose, like, maybe the one distinction I draw would be from the Christian perspective is you'll lose in this life, but it's the eternal life that you gain afterwards. I suppose that's a reward. Like, this life isn't even worth that. I guess that would sort of be that perspective there. So it's like, you know, trust in the truth, it will prevail. And I suppose the idea as well is that slowly the lies begin to unwind. And, like, I don't know, in a way you can almost see that in society a little bit, the way how, like, the media is starting to, like, get called out upon itself. Like, people are starting to see through the lies that, like, get portrayed through the media. And it's almost like, at the end of the day, it's like the truth is there, and it takes an absolute beating, but it still is there. And, like, it stands tall.
I don't think there's I don't think that's incorrect. I think the truth does shine out in the long run. But what I've noticed is that in order for the truth to win, it's often at the expense of incomprehensibly large amounts of suffering. Like, so much so. And then you have to ask, like, this is the question for someone like, from someone like Nietzsche, is like, how valuable is, quote unquote, the truth? How valuable are these things? Like, if you ask, like, a lot of people are into stuff like the awakening and all that and all this, and it's like, well, what, like, awakening to what? Awakening, are we saying that, like, the government's evil or something like that? Is that what we're all awakening to? And what does that mean? Like, are we going to replace the government with our noble version of government? How do you know that our noble version of government won't be just as evil as well? And then this is where it all starts to fall apart. We don't even know what the truth is, and we're in this mad pursuit trying to find it. I mean, like, it's a very, very difficult question, you know.
And, like, even I was sitting across from my boss just having lunch the other day, and, you know, he said to me, he's like, what's the first thing that goes in war? And I was like, what? He's like, the truth. And I was like, oh, like, that's what happens. Because you're not, like, but it's definitely very sort of interesting times. Matters. Like we're about to go through some very interesting times. And the question that sort of I want to ask, and I want to ask you, is, like, how do you think society is going to handle, like, the next few months? Like, I think we're all going to get through coronavirus, but society's unhinging, toilet paper hoarding, like, madness.
I don't have a clue. Like, the approach I would have towards this is actually quite psychological, because I've noticed I've been doing this for about a year now, and I've talked to a lot of different people, and consistently I would find what I'm describing here is like, even to get down to the neuroscience of it, like the way our brain hemispheres work. Our left brain is this perspective in the world that is is literally designed to lie about the nature of the world so that you can make the world functional. If you want to actually understand what I'm talking about here, look up my video on shadow work, the neuroscience of Carl Jung. It will explain absolutely everything to a finite detail of what I'm talking about. Basically, our brain divides itself into two halves. And so the one half helps us use the world by lying about the world, instead of saying, like, we're all connected and we're all one, which is what the right brain sees, which is actually quite accurate. Instead, it says, I am me and I must take care of me. And this microphone is not some like beautiful, complex a combination of thousands of different metals and processes that all came together from like factories and the earth and all that to manifest as this microphone. No, it's just a fucking microphone, and just speaking to the microphone and stop being a weirdo. Whereas the right brain would see that sort of artistic, fluid way of seeing things. Mm-hmm. And so there's this fundamental neuroscientific reality that we in order to act, we need to delude, we need to lie. And that's what the left brain does. And I've noticed that the left brain uses categories, it uses like ideas in its, that's how it operates. And so I notice I speak to a lot of people and they have a lot of notions about the world. They have a lot of categories, concepts, ideas about the world. And the problem is that before you can start talking about the ideas, you need to be humbly aware that this is the problem with your mind. Your mind is got a propensity towards conceptual lying, conceptual delusion and whatnot. So all these people I've talked to over the last year and all this, like not all of them, I'm just slandering everyone I've ever talked to. There's plenty of smart people, but consistently among myself and among a lot of people, I've noticed this attachment to concepts and this inability, this stiffness, this inability to understand that we probably aren't correct about most of the stuff that we're talking about. And everybody comes up with their notions about how the world should be run. Everybody has their notions about how things should work. Everybody has their notions. There's a lot of, especially in times of peace and prosperity, everybody gets the big ideas. They know everything. It's like, I know how to run society. I know how to fix society. I know who the problem is and all this stuff. And suddenly, when things get real, all of that stuff is just completely out the window. Because when things get real and there's an actual crisis on, suddenly everybody with their big ideas, a great example here is that you'll see a lot of people on the internet talking about being like anti-fragile and stoic and all that. And the second things get real, they're smashing into their computers. The world is over. Panic buy, toilet paper, grab it all
Guilty.
Up. And everything. Well, it's natural. I freaked out because of this as well. Like, it got to me too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's unusual to get panicked in crazy times. It's like, it has a weird feeling about it. And the reality is that all of that talk and all these notions beforehand, they were actually very, very useless. It was a lot of it is just going to fall and expose itself. And that's something you can learn about, that is that talk is cheap. And people do it cheaply, but being realistic, being in touch with reality, engaging with the world in a down to earth, grounded sense is actually something that people do not do well and do not want to do, because it's an emotional challenge. It requires humility. It's very easy for me to say, I know the right way that things should work. I know what's going on and all that, but it's very hard for me to just be realistic about things, put myself below the truth, below reality, if you will. Maybe the truth is even a bad word, below reality and whatnot. And for that reason, I think these things are quite cathartic. I always find, like, when things go crazy, it is a little bit cathartic. I'm freaked out. Like, I'm like, oh my God, the state is going to impose martial law. And what happens if they, lock us all down and then destroy us or something like that? Like, I'm worried about that. But at the same time, I'm noticing now that, like, people are finally just stopping with the frustrating notion, like, I think this and I think this is true because I think this and all that. They're letting go of that stuff, and they're starting to just reveal themselves of what they actually are, which is like panic confused animals that don't really know what they're doing. And that's I guess that's my best commentary on what's going on.
That's a very, very good commentary, very intricate, and I'm glad you went all the way to explain like how the left brain and the right brain in the hemisphere sort of interplaying in this situation. But I mean, look, I think it's so weird that, like, the alarm bells go off and the first thing people think to buy is toilet paper. Like, all I was thinking was, wow, the apocalypse is finally happening. I can't fucking wipe my ass. Like,
yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? Like, I don't know. Well, it's back to what I'm saying. There is like all of these things that we have, like toilet paper and these notions about how society should work. Most of these things are only 100 years old, like maybe a bit longer, maybe 200 years old. Like stuff like, modern modern concepts of like almost the majority of our modern concepts are very, very young. They're only 100 years old and all this. And as I said, like stuff like toilet paper, you think about it, like our entire modern lifestyle is only a construct of about like a century. And what happens when things get real is that you're pulled back to the foundational reality that humanity existed in. We existed in a state of farming peasants and lords for thousands of years, and that was just the way things operated. And there's been this massive, shuttle launch out of this reality into this really weird, like super city technological empires. And we think that's normal, and that's the status quo. We expect that to be the reality. But imagine if we had to go back to peasant times where they didn't have toilet paper. That was only 150 years ago. Yeah. And it makes you ask some serious questions. Like there's a lot of unbelievably serious questions embedded in it. I'm just going to start ranting now. So
go on.
There's a lot of very, very serious and strange questions embedded in this, such as how do we know that anything that we are doing was of any real value? Because it's if we sink back into the place where we don't have supply chains, food is scarce, and government tyranny is abound again. Like what's going to happen then? Like what do we do then? Like think about it this way. As I'm saying, people did not have toilet paper. What are you going to do when you don't have that modern convenience? And you're going to go back to the way that people naturally were. For example, I was having a conversation with some people I know, and I'm like, should we buy like an animal? Like, should we buy a cow so we can just get fresh milk in case stuff goes out? And that's a serious conversation because
it is.
Even in my head, it's quite simple. I'm like, all right, you just buy a cow. That's all good. And what you start to see is that in order to have a cow, you need to have like grass. You need to know how to make sure the cow doesn't get disease and all this stuff. And suddenly, like all my notions about like Nietzsche and neuroscience becomes pointless. It's a complete waste of time. Because if I can't get the milk off the cow, I starve. And then you start to see just how
all those concepts, like the concepts mean nothing.
It's just a complete
survival will take its course
and whatnot. And so this is, I guess, what I'm trying to get at here is that, like, I know a lot of people be freaking out, but it's almost like it's like getting back to first principles. It's actually can kind of be healing because our modern lives are like so weird and complex and too complex, if you know what I mean.
Way too materialist and sort of way too much into our own space and our phones. Like, who knows? Maybe some quarantine and some home time would be good.
Dude, I guess this is what I'm sort of saying. Like, if the government tyranny thing kicks up, that would be awful. But on the flip side, on the bright side, and like, for example, my lifestyle up in the city was just like, hours a day staring at a computer inside a concrete room, going outside into like dirty car air, eating badly, sourced food. I eventually found a decent butcher, so that was okay. And then that was my lifestyle, And then, like, when I'm in the countryside, imagine if I had a cow and no internet, I would be outside in the sun, getting a tan, getting vitamin D, having the freshest of food possible, not thinking anything, sitting on the internet, like, just thinking about concepts and Nietzsche and neuroscience. I'd be doing like what I'm practicing what I'm preaching. I'd be out there with a clear Zen Buddhist mind and probably be happier. I'd probably be happier. I'd be stronger. I'd probably be thinking more clear. And so, so it makes, I guess, like my kind of complex commentary about this is that on the one hand, a lot of our delusions are going to get punished if this gets serious. If we've had, like, for example, there's been the very big thing with, Jordan Peterson saying, all right, the colleges are starting to just get insane at this point. They're completely out of touch with reality. And something like this is going to bring all that stuff back down to earth again. That could be, you could say, a nearly cathartic thing. It'll be like, finally, we don't have to listen to people talking absolute nonsense. Finally, we're back to first principles. On the flip side, it will be horrible because we might lose a lot of stuff. It could even be dangerous because we might see something like tyranny. But on the flip side, again, it could be very good for us to get back to our foundation and have that attitude of being like, all right, well, like, being in nature a lot or not being addicted to the computers and all this is actually a good thing that we can look forward to.
And there's a couple of things I want to get from you there. Firstly, can you actually get a tan in Ireland? Like you said, you're tanning in the countryside in Ireland. Is that a thing?
Yes, you would. During the summer, dude, you get an awesome tan. I kind of start to look Spanish during the summer if I'm outside enough.
All right, I'll believe that one when I see it. But no.
Oh,
The
believe
question,
me.
the question I do want to ask you though, just sort of getting back into what you saying there earlier, like you're talking about how, you know, we might be coming under sort of potentially some government tyranny, you know, getting into that. And you know what I found myself the other day? I found myself thinking like a socialist. I was like, yeah, we should enforce a lot of these big fines and like imprisonment for people that break quarantine. We're spreading the virus. I was like, wait, what's going on here, man? Am I thinking like a socialist? Like, has it got to me?
Well, I'm not like, I'm not very political, so I don't really understand a lot of this stuff. But I'm not against socialism. I'm not even against this government tyranny. I know I'm sort of just saying that for dramatic effect, but
Yeah.
everything they're doing in order to protect the greater good from the virus is like, on some level, it sort of makes sense. Like this is a complex and nuanced thought. And what I'm getting at here, I'm not getting at like we should be against socialism or we should be forced. I'm not getting at that at all. I'm saying that when shit hits the fan, there's a lot of people who like to say, "Oh, I don't like government tyranny and all that." A lot of people have notions, but when shit hits the fan, when there's a virus around, people just literally step aside, and the government comes in. The government does not ask questions, and it says, "Guys, we're going to enforce a tyrannical martial law," and they don't even say, "Are you okay?" They're just like, "Guys, we're going to do this because it's serious." And suddenly everybody gives up all their ideals and be like, "Please save us, make everything better."
Yeah.
And this is what I'm kind of saying. It's cathartic because then you start to see what people really are. There are a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about, who are just like afraid, and they just want someone to take care of them and keep them safe.
Yeah.
And when they get safe, they start to have notions and chatter too much.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's happening to me a little bit, I guess. But like it makes sense, and it makes sense because it, you know, really it does appear to be what's going to stop it. Because like I don't want to be a doomsayer, and I'm sure everyone's heard enough of coronavirus, but like, you know, you just look at sort of the numbers and what's going on. It's like, man, this is crazy. Like,
yeah, like I don't want like, the borders to remain open because it's socialist to close them. I don't want that. I don't want them to be like, all right, go on, yeah, just like free travel for it because it's socialist to be against free travel. I'm sort of being like, no, dudes, like, a little bit of tyranny is okay there. You can kind of close the borders, you know. You can maybe say if you've got some guy who's like walking around coughing the whole place, you could kind of think to yourself, it's like, all right, dude, like maybe your individual rights get sort of violated here because that's disgusting. What are you doing, man? And this is what I sort of mean. It's a very, very revealing and grounding experience. You've got to pay attention to this because this is a glimpse of reality. It's like, you lived in ancient Rome and you grew up in the comfort of Rome. And then what happened is you said, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go traveling. And you traveled up to Germany or something, way more hardcore. And you got robbed. And you're walking around being like, the fuck, why did I get robbed? You probably got killed as well, but you got robbed. And this is that once you step outside of the cradle of Rome, where they have a law, and go into the more wild parts of the world, you confront reality as it is. And then most people are shocked. And maybe back in Rome, they were like saying stuff like, oh, those, the world is a safe place because Rome owns everything. And then of course they go to Germany, and then that's not what happens at all. They get back into reality. And I guess in some sense, this is our glimpse of how real things are, like what fundamentally holds our rights, our joy, our peace, and all that together is actually the fact that the government can mobilize an army to enforce it, and that's fundamentally it. Like it's not some. I hate to say it, but it's not some like spiritual concepts that are keeping all this stuff running. It's the fact that there's some men out who have a lot of guns and take orders and are willing to put their, life in their line for the sake of the greater good. Just the question then is like, I hope to God the people who are commanding those are good people. That's the only thing I'd be worried about. But I think that's the revelation,
And I suppose I guess that's what we're going to get to see unfold. But, really does feel like we're living in a time of history. And like, man, like, I'm soaking it up. I'm finding it very interesting. You go to the supermarkets and you see the empty shelves, and I kind of chuckle to myself. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like we're in The Walking Dead or something. Like,
sorry, the mother's coming in. I was, it feels like we're in The Walking Dead. At the same time, dude, like I was in Ireland last year when it was snowing, and this happened 2 years ago. Sorry, when it was snowing. and this happened, and it was all nothing. The shelves got cleansed. Everything shut down for 3 days, and then it went back to normal. It was just sort of like, as I'm saying, there's two approaches you need to take towards this. It could be a glimpse towards something horrible, or sorry, it's a glimpse of reality that could go away really fast. And all I would say to people is just pay attention to it. Just one sec, I'm recording. Just one sec. It could be a glimpse that people are family, man. A glimpse of reality that you got to pay attention to, or it's something that you fundamentally, it could not last forever, which would be absolutely awful. So I don't really know. Yeah. Like it could come back and we'll be all right, or it could go away and be the worst. Like the world could end, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No. I know what you mean. Like that's one of those funny things. Like when you grow up, or when you sort of get into sort of Christianity, there's this fundamental acceptance of like, oh, at some point, like the world will end, and then you're always caught between this mind of like, okay, like no, the world's not going to end, and then also this little part of your mind that's like, but it could.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm getting at. I guess that's fundamentally my thesis. I'm probably repeating myself. So forgive me. I did get distracted there, and so I might be repeating myself. I was kind of half paying attention to what I was saying, but this moment is, as I said, a glimpse of how things could be. What fundamentally runs a lot of stuff. And what will happen is, if it goes away, we will float back up into this world of like our notions and talking about nonsense. And all I would say to people is just keep in mind what happened here. Like, just keep in mind, because it might be nothing. Hopefully, I actually really hope it's nothing, and we go back to prosperity and peace. I hope that's what happens. And when we do, just keep this in mind. Keep in mind that the mask came off. All these people who are talking about stuff, they just showed their hand, because in times of fear, people show their hand. That's what it is. And so you see what people are right now. People are willingly going to just give up power to a government if things get serious. And then you have to reason from those first principles instead. And what will happen is it will all go away. We'll all forget about it, but keep these moments in mind, because this is the fundamental reality and truth of what's going on. And if it doesn't, well, we've got bigger problems. If this keeps going, we've got way bigger problems than just having a more realistic mindset, you know.
I mean, there's the impending economic collapse that could be, pending if, businesses and factories have to be shut down for a while. I mean, this could potentially be devastating for small businesses. I mean, there's a lot of fallout that could come from this virus, not just the health issues itself. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be a testing time, but I suppose all that we can really do is to keep our head in our shoulders, do what we can to stay safe, continue, I suppose, living our lives and just being aware, but I suppose trying to keep away from that point of panic. But it's so hard to, because that part of your brain that wants to, spark up and speak lies. I'm going back to Hobart. So I'm currently living in Melbourne, Australia. Hobart's like this little island, or Tasmania's a little island just south of Australia.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going back to see my parents, and what's been going on, the little lies I've been hearing is like, oh, what if you got sick at some point? I don't know, in the last couple of weeks, and symptoms haven't come up yet. And what if you get your parents sick? They're a bit older, and it's like these little irrational thoughts. You're like, shut up, I'm going to be fine.
Well, hopefully, I don't think it's wrong to be a bit worried. Like that could be true. You don't know. It's not unreasonable. I think I'd be careful of the idea that everything's going to be fine as well. I don't think things are as serious as people are making it out to be. But I do think there's the Romans had a notion they called gravitas. So it was that idea of having weight to the situation. There is a gravitas about what's happening here. It could be a very serious problem. There's a worldwide pandemic, but at the same time, though it may be serious, it might not be as severe as people are making it out to be. It might not be something that's going to kill 100%, 40% of the population are not going to die, but you could see look at Italy. They've got I think a 10% death rate or something like that. So that's pretty extreme.
It's absolutely devastating. Extreme. I'm a quarter Italian, and my heart goes out to that. It's and I've heard just stories on the ground there. So apparently there'd be way more people sick than what's reported in the cases, and apparently just everybody's sick. They're starting to let the old people die. Just something here in Australia, it hasn't really kicked off yet. If you look at the graphs, we're at that point where it's in 2 weeks, it's going to shoot, and we're hoping we're taking the right measures that it doesn't. But I was talking to my old boss, because he's an older fellow. I called up on him, and he said one of his friends who's terminally ill was talking to his specialist, and his specialist told him, hey, if you get this virus and you get sick, they're not going to put you in the hospital. Like, you're out to die. Like, his specialist is like giving him that information already, and nothing's even really happened here in Australia. Like, we've got maybe 500 cases, which is, not insignificant, but, who knows where it's going to go from there. And I guess it's just, it's already at the point where those decisions are being made. And it's like, wow, like, it really makes you take a step back and think, geez, it's tough.
Well, that's it. Like, like, as I said, people will have notions, and then what will happen is things will get real. And when it comes to the contact with reality, that if you don't take firm, extensive, you could say government-wide tyrannical socialist action, if you don't do that fast, you're looking at Italy. And if you do that fast, you're looking at South Korea, whereas they've controlled quite a lot of it. And so again, this is I guess this is the only message I have throughout the whole of this. And I'd like to wrap it up because I got to go, and Mum's going mad here in the corner, being like, oh, you're slowing the internet down. But basically, that idea that it is a contact point, a revelation that this is how quick things can suddenly, everything can just go out the window. All the notions goes out the window. All the talks of how things should be run go out the window. Instead, we just engage with reality as it is. We pragmatically use the state in order to save people's lives. And then you start to see that a lot of our notions about how the state should be used, or what the state is, or the value of politics is completely bullshit. And it was just a lot of talk. It was a lot of drivel from peacetime of people who are out of touch with reality. So there you go.
Yep. Well, Stefan, I want to say thank you very much. For anybody listening, if you have not checked out his channel, Uberboyo, make sure you do. The content there is fabulous. I think, one of the greatest things about our modern times is we have content creators such as you putting out such good, valuable and resourceful content on the internet. It's very rich, and I do enjoy your boys' banter. When you get on with Jimmy, I think your banter's top notch. So I want to thank you very much for giving your time to this show, and for giving your perspective, and for sharing all that. So go check him out, Uberboyo. Stefan, just one more time, can you just give us the Boyo alert?
Boyo alert, boils. Boyo over now. Boyo cessation. Boyo cessation. That's what's happening here. So we will report in later, and stay juicy. Pretty sure everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Make
stay
sure
safe, everybody.
You guys just keep level heads, and you should be all good. I'll talk to you later.
Wash your hands for 20 seconds. Sing happy birthday twice.
Drink tonic water. That's the other one. All right. I'll talk to you later.